Rand here, and today we're going to be adding another plug here by the electrical panel here. If you remember from the video when we replaced this panel, we had a plug, I think it was mounted below it, somewhere in here if I remember correctly. Obviously with a much larger panel, well, I guess we could still mount it down there somewhere yet. I think we're probably going to mount it off to the side here, at least that's what we're thinking. There's some holes on the side of the panel here we can mount it on. Obviously this side's probably not an option because it's back behind there. So finally getting around to adding that. So we're going to be a 20 amp breaker here and plug to go with it. So let's get the cover off. The power is already off, so we're good to go here. Okay, and we are in. And first thing we're going to do, we realized when we, or after we were all done putting this together, we forgot to put the cap back over this. I don't know that it really matters, other than maybe it's a little bit more of a rounded edge for the wires, rather than the little bit sharper edge of the pipe here. The pipe is held in by a metal retaining ring down there. But we're going to put it back on, so let me take these back out here. Of course, these are the main connections here. Hopefully we can do this somewhat easily without getting in too much trouble here. Might have to put some more goop on here when we're done too. We'll see once here. And of course this one's back behind all the wires, right. There we go, wrestling match completed. And just to be safe, I'm going to put a little more stuff on there. The stuff we're putting on here, by the way, is ox guard. Don't exactly know the reason for this, other than I know you're supposed to put it on, so let's we'll leave it at that. But we'll put some more of that on here. I'm assuming it probably has something to do with the aluminum wires here. That one, the other one looks like it has quite a bit on it yet already, so I think we'll put a little more on here in the back, I guess. Okay, that should be good. And these wires are not marked, so I don't know that it matters which one they go in, but we'll put them back in the same one they came out of, which is the same one they came out of on the old panel, by the way. Again, they're not marked, so typically that means it doesn't matter, even though it might, but because they're not marked, again, you're really not going to know. Okay, probably easier, I'm just going to pull those wires out rather than trying to stick this back behind here again. I just realized I didn't get it behind those. And finally onto what we're actually coming to do here. So we're going to be installing a new plug, and I've got all the parts and pieces we're going to need for this here. A little piece of conduit. So we're just going to run it out of the side of the box here and through the conduit. Got the plug all set, and we should need just a little short piece of wire. We'll probably, I don't know, maybe add it with this bank of breakers here. So far we got our 20s, our two 30s, which are 220. And then two 15s up here. So I'm going to start by popping out one of these on the plug here. And if we do it, we could probably do it there. Let's pop out this one here. And then we just wiggle it back and forth here, and it should pop out. There we go. Quarter anyone? Hopefully this plug will be about the same depth here. I'm not sure, but we got one of the conduits here. We'll stick that in there. And tighten that down. Okay, I guess that is considered tightened down. And then the second one here, put that on the box. That is not going to be a good angle. We need to get that around a little more yet. There we go. That should be nice and tight. Slip it on there. Oh yeah, not quite the right angle. I'm going to get a couple screws. We're going to screw that in there, and then we'll start running the wire. Next, we're going to insert the wire here, which I have already stripped back the one side of it here. And I should be able to feed it through there. Something like that. And like I said, I'm probably going to put the breaker right there, so we'll just run this along the bottom here. And then this can probably run along the bottom into here. And this can go up into one of the grounding bars, neutral bars here. They're not exactly separated out on this panel, so it doesn't really make a difference here as to which one we go in. So let's just strip it back here. Go. And technically we could run this right next to it too, but we're going to put this up in this one here. The idea was when we were going to get this box, we were going to try to run all the grounds on this side, the neutrals on this side, just to keep them organized. But due to the lengths of some of these wires, that simply was not at all possible. This is 12-2, by the way, so we're running 12 gauge wire here. Going to be putting a 20 amp breaker on it. Probably don't need it that long. Let's trim a little off here. Doesn't even have to be that long, but it's always good to leave it a little long as opposed to short in case you make ever any changes. Like the previous electrician left it way too short. Now for this side, we don't need it this long either. I always like to loop it up around, back down. That should be enough. And then we'll strip it back here. Probably actually a little much yet. Let's see what's here. Yeah, a little much. Strip those back in preparation for the plug. And this one happens to have nice handy little cutouts in it so you can stick the wire in and loop it over. And we'll get the plug connected here, so gold side with the hot or the black. Make sure it's nice and tight. And I always like to screw in the side that's not going to be used. Again, no other plug's going to be connected to this. And then same thing on this side. Get the neutral. And finally the ground. Make sure that's nice and tight, and we'll screw in the last connection here, again not used. And like I said, I like to just kind of loop it up and around in here. And we'll get this put on. And for the cover, so that just about does it for this end here. We're actually just about done. Well, the plug's actually basically done here. We just got to put the cover on. And then we have one last step to do in the breaker box here. And for the last step here, we got to put the breaker in, which means I need to strip this side yet. Apparently I didn't do that. There is a strip gauge on the side here, so just about perfect there. Stick the wire in and tighten it down. Make sure that's good and tight. And then finally we'll stick it on here. There we go. Breaker's in, we're ready to go. And before I close the panel up here, and before I forget, I was asked when we did this panel if I could show how the 220 breakers are wired here. So for those of you who have not seen the 220, actually let me just see if I can pull this one off here. So here's the 220 breaker. It's essentially a double breaker. And for those who don't know how this works, it's essentially grabbing both I guess poles, both hots here. So both these lines coming in, let me point this camera up here a minute. Both these are hots coming in. This is your neutral over here. Ground is connected over here. I don't know if you can quite see that, but it's back behind there. That's your ground. So both these are hot, and basically the way this works, every other one of these is on one of these. So I don't know which way it actually goes here. Let's just say, actually, you know what, I can probably tell. This one, this one, this one, and this one are on this side, while this one, and that one are on this side. So again, they're alternating. So essentially this breaker grabs both of these. I don't know why they call it 220. I'm not sure on that, because it's technically just two 110s. This is 110, this is 110. They call it 220. I don't know. It's two 110s, so I guess that's how they figure it's 220. And then the way it's wired, you got your black, which is typically your hot, and then your neutral, which is typically your neutral. These are both hot in this case. And of course the ground wire for this one is, I don't know where that one is connected. That's actually connected down on this side here. So there's your ground, or neutral in this case, for your 220. So the 220 has two hots. Again, the white is typically your neutral, and the 220, in the case of 220 it is not, it is actually hot. And then your neutral is actually your ground wire. So that's how that is wired. With this one here, this is 10 gauge wire. A little bit odd here, this one here, this is actually wired by the electricians that put this one in. This is another 220, 30 amp. This is only 12 gauge wire. I thought it was supposed to be 10 gauge. This is the one I put in. This is 10 gauge. But anyway, whatever, they got 12 gauge on this one, 30 amp. This one has 10 gauge, this is also 30 amp. One for the welder, one for the compressor. So we'll just put that back in there. So again, there's nothing particularly fancy about this. It's just, it's still 3 wires. You can of course get, if you get the 4 wires, and then you'll still have a dedicated neutral and dedicated ground, and 2 still dedicated hots. And on the panel here, before we put it back on, we need to break out the spot for that breaker. And I'll write on it here once I get it mounted back up. Okay everyone, and that's going to do it for this video. We got it installed, and now we have power there. So there's the plug. Again, you see this a lot with plugs right next to the panels. Just a nice convenient spot to have them, especially if you got to do some work elsewhere in the barn. You can turn the power off, still have power on this plug. You know, you have the one outlet. Also probably somewhat common with construction, their new construction. Have an outlet right there. It's going to be your main plug for a while. So anyway, we got our plug back in. That's also where the phone and stuff plugs in here too, by the way. So we can finally plug the phone back in there. Anyway, you folks have any comments or questions about this, be sure to leave them below. And also, we do have a couple more videos coming up here yet of this as well. We got 2 new lines ran here for the outlets along what we're going to call the north wall there. So we got 2 new wires ran over there yet. We'll still have to do that. So those videos will be coming up yet. Hopefully we'll get to that in the next couple days here. So yeah, like I said, folks have any comments or questions, be sure to leave them below. And as always, thanks for watching, and until next time.